Have you noticed that seemingly every new bike launched these days gets marketed as being longer, lower and slacker? Honestly though, there's only one bike that fits this description. That bike is the Mojo Nicolai Geometron. But if you thought that bike was radical, think again, because there's now a version of the Geometron with a gearbox and a belt drive, and we've ridden it. Built with the exact same geometry as the regular bike, the gearbox model gets a 63.5 degree head angle, 340mm bottom bracket, steep 77 degree seat angle, and unfashionably long 440mm chainstays. There are three sizes available, dubbed long, longer and longest. We rode the middle size, which gets a huge 1285mm wheelbase. Even with its forward geometry, an equivalent Mondraker Dune is 60mm shorter. Mojo says this frame size will suit riders of roughly average height. Bolted to the bottom of the down tube and seat tube is the pinion gearbox. This highly complex bit of kit offers 12 gear ratios, operated by a twist grip shifter, and weighs a hefty 2.7 kilos alone. But by moving the bulk of the transmission into the heart of the frame, 40% is lost from the unsprung weight. There's no dangly derailleur to tear off in a crash or snag on a rock, and the suspension is completely free to move without hindrance from the drivetrain. Because the weight of the front triangle is so much heavier, the sprung to unsprung mass ratio dramatically changes, which should mean big gains in suspension performance. Yes, the Geometron was exceptionally stable, and you do need a bit more muscle to initiate those turns, but the wide bars give you additional leverage, and once you're leaning over, you feel like nothing can knock you offline. We actually feared it might take a while to get used to the sheer size of the Geometron, but within a few turns we felt comfortable, and our confidence continued to grow with every minute in the saddle. Losing that unsprung weight has unshackled the suspension too. There's an unflinching steadiness to the main frame that's in stark contrast to the liberty and sensitivity of the rear suspension. It soon became clear that this is a bike yearning to be hurled down the roughest, steepest, fastest tracks around. There is a trade-off though. Pinion's grip shifter is awkward to use and feels like a huge step backwards compared to a modern trigger unit. You cannot shift gear under any pedalling load either, so you have to completely rethink your shift points. But the biggest issue for us is the weight. Without the benefit of gradient, this bike feels lethargic, and even with gravity on your side, you have to boss it around and really put your back into riding it. Staying smooth and carrying speed is definitely the way forward. Constant accelerations and decelerations will soon leave you exhausted. For uplifts, alpine trips, and even those rides that consist of long, steady climbs and wild downhill plunges through the trees, the Ion GPI would be an absolute weapon. But the pinion gearbox pushes the weight of the bike beyond most current downhill steeds and renders it inappropriate for trail centre pedalling and those areas of the country that are not blessed with big hills and challenging terrain.